Forbes Books Podcast, conversations with amazing humans who are impacting the world of business and beyond. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and today I'm joined by Jade Green, who is on a mission to help fast-growth companies win the war for talent by building human-centric cultures. As a speaker, facilitator, and host, she enables leaders to transform their business cultures and unlock human potential. Hey, Jade, how are you?
Hey there. How you doing, Joe?
Great to see you. And so I want to start talking about serial entrepreneurship because I have this running joke that I feel serial entrepreneurs are psychopaths.
Hold on. I want to say, is it psychopath or sociopath?
Well, psychopath is born, sociopath is made. So I like to say that you serial entrepreneurs were born that way, just sort of like the Lady Gaga song.
Yeah.
So tell me about your path to serial entrepreneurship, because from what I understand, you actually own businesses by your early 20s.
Yeah. What's
wrong with you, Jade? I mean, that's the question to start with. What's wrong with? Oh, unemployable. Yeah, I know the feeling. But why? What is it about entrepreneurship? Like, how did you learn about it?
I would say absolute necessity. So I grew up, we say, from trailer and trauma to triumph, and I'd seen my dad come through an entrepreneurial journey of such, lost it all, completely bankrupt, and you got to be resourceful. So I wanted to grow up and be a wedding dress designer.
Wow, okay.
When I got big. And I managed to get a part scholarship to a school of fashion, very high end, and I was still too poor to go to a part scholarship.
Wow.
So I was like, well, look, we're just not going to let that get in the way. I can just start my own business and make dresses.
Sure.
No, it was actually completely by accident. I accidentally got asked to see if I could wrangle some girls to work at a supercar event and hold the brollies. And 4 years later, I had 52 of those girls holding brollies, and they needed costumes. There's a big story that sits behind that.
That's awesome. So people are your thing, like talent and people, and that's sort of like what you've kind of cut your teeth with over the last 20 years. And it's so funny because I guess you're both old enough. We're both old enough, I guess, but I'm older than you. But you're old enough to see this sort of evolution of talent, whereas people in 20, 30 years ago were just considered commodities. It's like, oh, one person leaves, I'll just bring the other person. Oh, that person didn't like working here. That's cool. I'll just get another person that won't like working here. But there has been this evolution where there's been this focus on culture. Like the idea of culture, if you ask someone about culture in the 80s, they'd be like, what do you mean? Like the Culture Club, Boy George? Like no one knew what that meant. But now we're a little more...
Jordan Belfort.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm sure he did, right. And I have. He's quite a nut. But tell me about this idea of culture and why it's so important for the times we're living in today, because we are so hyper aware of it now.
Yeah. So I like to say that culture is what your people do when you're not watching. So it is absolutely imperative to your business. So if you want to be able to not have to micromanage, not have to look at all the different things, not worry about people punching clocks, and we are moving to an age where people don't want to be micromanaged, right? You want them to just do the work because they love doing the work and you can trust them. So you have to look at how do you create the rules of the game that people are signing up to do. Like you can choose, do you want to play soccer? Do you want to play football? The football you play with your hands, obviously.
Right, of course.
Yeah. Do you want to play basketball? Do you want to, what sport do you want to play? You base it on the rules, the type of team you want to be in, and you sign up and you go to work. So the same thing, I think, is around company cultures. Like you want people to opt in. They want to be a part of the game. They know what the rules are. They know how to win. They want to do the hard work in the background to make themselves really show up as that A player. And if you can't create a culture that speaks to that person, then you're going to have people that are just coming in, being a passenger, getting by. That's not what you want.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with the amount of opportunity that's available to all humans now, like we can make money taking pictures of our asses.
Right, sure. I mean, I can't, but I get where you're going.
Attitude.
Yeah, no, true. You're right. Yeah.
There's a freak for everyone.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. See for every tuchus. Yes.
Right. So when you're thinking about it, we're no longer just competing against our competitors for talent. We're competing against all these other things that they think they can do. That doesn't mean they're going to be successful at it. So you've got to think about what's going to make them want to come in and show up for you and build your dream. And that's why it's not pizza nights, it's not foosball tables, it's how the humans interact with each other that makes a culture.
Yeah. I mean, I blame the tech companies for that because that's how they were drawing people in the 90s and 2000s. Like, hey, listen, we have pizza nights. We've got a tennis court. It's all this other stuff. And what people didn't realize was after a while, like, that makes sense in certain cultures where that's appealing, but that's not what makes the culture.
Yeah. So if we actually disseminate what that really is, though, we go, okay, well, was it the pizza? It's not the pizza. It's the social. So when we look at it, different people need different things to feel like they belong. But the reason why that worked for the tech companies is those people didn't have people to go eat pizza with.
Yeah.
They didn't have friends outside of the stuff that got them, or they didn't have the time that, when they wanted to eat pizza was at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
So when you actually break down why that worked for them, it's around a sense of belonging. It's about the community. It's about having the social aspect and the connection pieces.
And so why doesn't that work for everybody? Because everyone, I'm sure, as you know, they said, those companies are so successful. Let me try that over here. Why do you think that idea of just plugging and playing what other company, the copy and paste of culture, why doesn't that work?
Because they're trying to copy and paste what the end outcome was, the pizza night, rather than what the actual event is and the purpose of it. So you go, right, what's the actual purpose of what we're trying to do? Build connection, build relationships, build a social belonging. Okay, well, what's that look like for the type of people we want to bring in? Because if we've got mainly families and parents and things like that, then doing pizza night isn't going to work.
Right.
So what can we do to have that type of event that's going to connect with them, that suits their lifestyle? And then you need to reverse engineer those things from there.
And so when you talk to folks who've been, like I said, you've been doing this for a while, what is some of the pain points of culture? Because I think a lot of things, especially if it's a CEO that's more tactical or operational, they probably don't have like the soft skills of empathy, although, in 2020, people found the word empathy. I guess no one knew what it was until the pandemic. But the soft skills that leaders probably were lacking in the past, what do you think is the cause of that? Is it because they just are so into just what the widget they're making and not worrying about the people?
So what we find is with a lot of entrepreneurs, they might be what we call visionary.
Right.
They're really overrated.
Yeah. Overused as well.
Overused, overrated.
Yeah.
They're not people.
Right.
When you come to it,
Yeah.
like, I'm visionary. I set the vision, but I don't do the peopling.
Yeah.
Often they've just been so deep and so enthusiastic about what they're doing, and maybe they've enrolled people in what they're doing because the idea is great, but they have got to where they've got not needing to have people skills.
Right.
And a lot of them, because they're unemployable, haven't come through organizations and had actual leadership guides. They haven't seen it modeled. They haven't been a part of it. They haven't stepped up the ranks and had to learn the skills. And now they find themselves like, oh, I kind of accidentally have this really cool and I've got some money, or the product started selling itself, but now I have all these humans and I don't really know how to human. And we don't teach them at school or at university how to human. So there's this disconnect. So where we found before, say, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, people had been through jobs, they'd been through internships, and they'd been in organizations where they'd seen some of this model. So they kind of knew, they either knew what good looked like or they knew what bad was really like. So they knew how to be the opposite.
Right.
Now, we just come out of school and we can do it, and we haven't gone through that apprenticing to have the modeling. So I think that's why there's the disconnect.
And also that apprenticing is more complicated than it used to be, because I came up in a world of radio where you worked at a radio station for free. Like you showed up and it was probably incredibly illegal, but that's how like you built a network by doing stuff for free. We don't do that anymore. And they now have paid programs, and it's more rigid. So in a way, we're protecting people, but also hurting them at the same time by putting them in these little boxes where like, okay, you're an intern, we're only going to pay you for 6 hours a day, so you're going to do, stuffing envelopes 6 hours, and you're not going to meet anybody else during the day. But we're doing this for your safety, but we're also doing this because we just want some cheap labor. So how does that happen for the next generation of folks who are trying to work their way into business? And I'm not talking about entrepreneurs, obviously, because you make your own way. But like for folks that want to work for a company, work for a large brand, like they're going to have to do those things.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of the problem at the moment is we've got entitlement issues coming through. Like I know so many young people going, well, I'm not going to go and work and do an internship for pennies. Like I can go and do this, or I'd prefer to do nothing. And we've got to think about how the older generations have kind of set them up to fail. Like we have these bit of modeling. We've got the, participation award.
Yeah.
Right? We're not learning resilience.
Yeah.
We're not learning the skills of actual, okay, you got to go in and do your time. You've got to apprentice under someone, learn from them. I say you want to learn to earn or earn to learn. So you find somewhere that you might only get paid a tiny amount, but the skills and the learning you're getting from that is, or the network, because your network is your net worth, is going to be exponentially more valuable than the couple of bucks an hour that you were making. But we don't have that mindset. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to work for $50 now.
Yeah.
It's like,
so where do we go wrong? Is it because of the fact that we just, because I like to say I'm a Gen Xer. And I would say we're the last cool generation because we lived in a world without technology, but we were still young enough to adapt to it. Whereas the boomers had probably aged out a little bit, and then millennials obviously born with it, and Gen Z, they gave it an iPad when they came out of the womb. So where do we go wrong? Is it just because we kept overcorrecting over generations? Like the boomers were like, go outside and wander around and come back at 10 o'clock. Then Gen X was like, oh, be home by 6 o'clock. And then we kind of overcorrected it even more to be like, okay, you can go outside for an hour of the day. So what went wrong?
There's a great book called Generations. And I'd say to everyone, grab that if you're running a multi-generational team to really understand. And it does touch in on a lot of those aspects. But I think it's polarizing, but I think that we're being geared up from this big, hopefully with people on video.
Yeah.
But to be industrialized and to not think, and they're trying to make us be sheep, right? So just go to school, follow the bell, regurgitate what we teach you. Don't even question if it's actually right, because what we teach in one country versus another country about history, sorry about that.
Even towns,
in towns, right?
Town to another.
Follow the process, follow the system, and then we started putting padding around them, because then some of us exes come through and are like, oh, well, maybe I got left out a little bit too much, and we start having some sort of victim story around it. So then we're projecting onto the kids, and it's like, okay, I think everyone needs to level set and go, what are the skills that we need as humans to be able to live a truly fulfilled life? Right? And then we go, okay, what are those core foundational skills? We need to have convergent and divergent thinking. We need to embrace people who buck the rules, but we also need the people that follow the rules. And there's embracing the genius of that, not trying to push everyone into one thing. We need to kind of go, okay, where does the kid need to, learn by falling on its face? We don't just learn, like, you watch your friend fall over on their face, you laugh. You don't.
Yeah.
You really learn the lesson when you fall on your own face.
Right, yeah. Well, let's talk about those skills you talk about, because how did you develop yours? Because you went from hiring models to go to what you've become, which is pretty remarkable. Was it sort of, do you think, nature versus nurture, is this something that was in your system? Is it something that you developed over time? Because now you're teaching the folks the stuff we've been trying to correct and sort of massage and get better. But how did you get there?
Again, I got there through necessity, because there was no one giving me anything on a silver platter, and I had to get after it. But I think it really comes from going, what's the change I want to see in the world? And this fire of the government's not coming to save us. Education's not coming to save us. And if you know better, you should do better. It's time to pick up the sword and do something about it. So I can only say for me, it's like this innate drive of wanting to really serve humanity on the small level that I can serve it on. I'm not here to be some sort of guru or whatever. And I like, okay, where can I have the most impact? We've got emerging businesses who have employees that are what I would say is a captive audience. We have employers whinging and complaining about where's all the good people? There's no good people. Everyone's shit, blah, 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 blah.
Is that your American impression, by the way?
Yeah, probably. But what are you doing about it? Less whinging about it, more doing something about it, right? And we have the opportunity, if we teach the skills that can be used in all over life, is going to enhance your business as well. So it's more, I suppose, me getting up on my
high horse. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Let's talk more action. And I don't know if that comes from growing up with a single dad who's, an ex-sailor, an actual ex-mercenary.
Wow.
You grow up rough, stumble. Like, if you want something, get after it and get after it yourself. Don't expect someone else to do it.
Wow, so John Wick is your dad. That's pretty cool.
Have you seen the Dos Equis ad? The most interesting.
Yeah, that's your dad?
Yeah, that's dad.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it tracks. It tracks. It's funny you talk about like action, and I've written about this recently, and I feel like sometimes we're doing things for the sake of doing things. So when it comes to culture, people will be like, okay, so our culture is bad. Oh, is there like an app? Is there like a project management software we could help with culture? So and I know you're not coming from that place, but I think sometimes when it comes to these visionary CEOs or just CEOs in general, like, all right, I don't know how to fix this, so maybe I'll just buy something that will fix it. Tell me about that mindset.
I'm going to answer it in a slightly different way. I have a client who I've been working with for 3.5 years. And he's like, when are we going to be done with this culture shit? I like, never. Your whole business is driven by people.
Wow.
And he's like, but it's exhausting. I'm like, I know. But you got to keep at it. You can't just band-aid it. And it gets easier. Like, and if you had a magic wand, I'd say to every business when you're starting, do the hard work up front. Really stop and think about your core values. And really think about what are those rules of the game. Don't make any decisions without them. Hire and fire by them, right? Choose your customers by them. Build your business from that place because it's going to save you so much time and energy in the long run. But you've got to go, this is not something you can just buy a fix on. Would you like that done to you? Hell no. Yeah. And you say that to them and they're like, oh, yeah, no. It's like, well, who the hell do you think you are to do that to all these people that, you owe them.
Yeah.
They're building your dream. You have a helicopter because of those people out there.
Right.
How dare you just like go, I just want to slap an app on them and make their problems go away.
It's funny you talk about generations too, because I think they say younger generations want the instant gratification. Well, I think the old generations want instant fixes.
Yeah.
So there is a bit
silver bullet.
Yes.
Where's my silver bullet?
Yeah.
Well, there is a silver bullet, but you got to do the work up front.
Yeah.
So you've got to be willing to do the work to get the payoff and just get down in the mud and look at it. And the real reason why most of them don't want to do it, they don't want to take responsibility for where it was their fault. And if we look at it and I go with any of this stuff, you are the cause. You are the problem. You hired those people. You created your toxic culture by giving permission to the people that have shit behavior.
Yeah.
You're allowing them to be there because maybe they're a great performer, they're a great programmer, blah, blah. But because of their crap behavior, you're dragging down the rest of the thing. So it's on you. So they don't want to do the work. They want something to slap over it because they don't want to take responsibility.
And if we could give a hack to those people, because I don't think it's one of those things where you could fix the culture, but you may not be able to fix the leader. And especially if the leader's the owner of the business. Is it as easy as just like, hey man, stay out of it?
Yes. So often, like we say, what got you here won't get you there. And there's peacetime CEOs, there's wartime CEOs, there's time that you need a people leader versus a strategic leader, and being able to look at it and reassign and go, okay, do you know what? I got it here. Like Jobs, not a great peopling person.
Yeah.
Amazing at design, strategy, and marketing. We're your CEO title, but you live over there and don't talk to people.
Right.
Right. I've got clients that, yes, it's their business, and I've banned them from the office for weeks at a time, and I run the team instead because I'm like, you're gonna tank this place. So it's just about, I'd say, throwing out the old ideas of what job descriptions used to be and titles have to be, and really looking at what's the job to be done and who's the best person to do that job. And then just make up names. Like Chief Big Ass from Big Ass Fans, right?
Yeah.
So that you're not stuck by a mental construct and you just get the right person doing the right job.
It's awesome. Awesome. All right. So a couple more things we want to wrap up here. One is, I know, I'll pull a thread on this about business scaling. I know that's something that you're working on. And when it's speaking to entrepreneurs, they say the two toughest things is starting the company and then scaling up the company. Where does the scale up the company bottleneck happen? Why do you think people have trouble with that step of building a business?
Because they try to do it alone and they don't follow a system or process. So I call it like Franken company. It's like, I got a little bit from this book. I got a little bit from here. Oh, I think this. No, I don't like that. That's too hard. I'm going to modify it. Pick something, stick to it, and just roll it out, and then come back and make the adjustments. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Go and look at what has worked for other companies like this. Like the reason why we use the Scaling Up book, right? And Rockefeller Habits. They've gone and they've studied the companies that have really made it. We've got the data points. Like, who are you to think that you're going to be better than all of these? Now, I'm not saying you can't put your own spin on it, but start with something, follow the system and process, test and try it, then come back and go, what worked, what didn't work, what do we want to keep, delete, and what do we want to start doing to make it our own? and just stick to it rather than trying to cut the corners and go, oh yeah, but we're different. Because everyone's saying, we're different.
Right.
You're not that different.
That's awesome. All right, last thing is you use this hashtag Be the Ripple. Tell me about that. What is that? And I mean, I think we've kind of touched upon it a little bit in this conversation, but as we close this out, what does it mean to be the ripple?
Okay, so my company name is Vare, and Vare in Norwegian means to be, and in Finnish, it means ripple. And the reason why we came up with that name was because I'm often saying I want to be the ripple effect for the change I want to see in the world, and I can do that utilizing the workplaces. I believe the fate of humanity rests on the shoulders of emerging business leaders. It's up to us to give these skills that we've talked about. It's up to us to help be the ripple for the change and increase the vibration of all of our people. So if everyone can just go, what I'm doing today, what's the ripple effect of that, right? If you have a bad day and you go and like berate one of your team members and they feel really crappy, they go home and they kick the dog. How many times have you seen someone like come in and the poor dog comes up and it's like, looks at you and like they kick the dog because they've had a bad day? Or little Johnny comes and pulls on dad's pant legs, like, can you throw a ball with me? And he's like, can't you see I'm busy? If that's like a child under 7, that can leave a lasting impression that has a negative effect on their mental health for the rest of their life because they're not important. They're seen as a pain in the neck. I should hide. Like all of these impressions, like we don't understand the ripple effect that we can have. So be the ripple for the change you want to see in the world.
I love it. Her name is Jade Green. Jade, thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. Sure.
You're welcome. And that's going to do it for another Forbes Books podcast. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. You can always connect with me on X, LinkedIn, Instagram at Joe Pardavila or on TikTok at J Pardavila. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.